I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for InvestmentPitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Cyrus Taghehchian, the CEO and CFO of Splyt. Cyrus, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, pleasure's mine, Ashton. I'm really excited to be here.
Likewise, and I've heard a lot about Splyt, and I'm excited to dive right into it. And if we could just kick off the interview with an overview and the focus of Splyt and some of the solutions that you're solving for in the e-commerce industry, that would be great.
Yeah. What we're really looking for in our mission is to bring trust and transparency back to the way we do business. A lot of things have gone digital, and with that, there's a lot of opaqueness in the way we operate, and sometimes you're just kind of left out in shrugging of like what's going on. We want to bring that trust and transparency back into what we do in e-commerce transactions. Really empower brands of all shapes and sizes to be able to succeed and build a sustainable business online without getting exploited by like an Amazon or anybody else. That sort of censorship kind of makes me sad. However you feel about Parler, for instance, when they just got shut off. They were paying customer; it was their right. How far does freedom of speech go? Having the ability for small, medium businesses to survive online is really important for us.
Definitely, and I completely agree, Cyrus. And it seems like the e-commerce industry has turned into, especially with the lockdowns, an oligarchy or almost monopoly, and it's getting a little crazy. And one of the things that Amazon is trying to pride themselves on is, getting it to you fast and getting it to the cheapest. But it really seems to cut out all of the ma and pa's and the people that are trying to survive and sort of consolidates that power. So I'm glad that there are great other alternatives like Splyt, and you're doing some really unique things as well. Could you talk about what makes Splyt unique, and if you have any competitive advantages from other platforms like this?
Yeah, so our uniqueness comes twofold. One in the crypto space and one in the traditional e-commerce space. I'll start with the traditional e-commerce space. Most platforms out there are trying to make a profit, right? So they have their best interests in mind, not necessarily yours as a small, medium business. So how do you trust them? How do you trust that they're taking care of your data? They have your best interest in mind? You really don't. There's some questions, but that's not to say there aren't good platforms out there. There definitely are, but you just never really know. And then it's becoming more and more convoluted in the whole e-commerce and what e-commerce means. There's so many different players now, from logistics to fintech, and so many different vendors you're going to have to choose from. How do you know what to do, where to go, where's all your data going? Again, it's just makes people feel uncomfortable. Splyt, one of the things that we decided to do early on is become a nonprofit. Really, we're trying to build a social utility similar to what Linux did for servers, and they're widely used for enterprise. Even a CMS system, a content management system, which was what you build websites on. Drupal is a nonprofit that's really commonly used at enterprise. So we modeled our system to be something like that for e-commerce, and e-commerce doesn't have it. Everybody's trying to make a transaction cost or put their hand in the cookie jar when you're making a business online. I haven't really seen anybody bring that sort of, social aspect to e-commerce. It's really easy to, become a middleman and get a transaction fee. It's like, oh, it's only 1 cent, but that turns out to be millions or billions of dollars per year that could be redistributed back into the pockets of, small mom and pops to keep them in business, pandemic or not.
Definitely, and that's so interesting. I didn't know that you've built it into a nonprofit, and I am familiar with Drupal as a nonprofit, and they're really doing the same thing. They're giving back to the community. Now, do you think that having it as a nonprofit, competing with all of these for-profit businesses, is going to create disadvantages, but as well have advantages?
Yeah, there's always an opportunity cost in any type of decision you make in life, and it's really within our purpose to be doing it as a nonprofit. So, whatever types of hurdles that we're going to have to overcome, we're conscious of them, and we're willing to do so. And one of them is, necessarily finding like funding, for instance. It's really hard to, get a nonprofit going. But we've been building this for 4 years and we haven't stopped. And when you're purpose driven, like it'll happen, it'll manifest. It's not necessarily driven by the dollars. Everybody on our team has heart and they really believe in what we do. So that's another unique thing about Splyt. It's really our team, and we do care about sustaining a business, but we really care about purpose. That's what drives us. But back to your question, what makes us unique in e-commerce in plus crypto or blockchain? A lot of crypto companies have built really cool things. I'll have to say, it's really like I've been in the industry. We were just talking right before the show, and we've been here both in this industry for about 7 years, and I'm pretty sure we both seen some really cool things back in 2017 and 18. There was tons of there was a lot of your head scratchers coming up, but there was also a lot of cool things, and Ethereum was one of them, right? That was born in 2016, 2017 time period as well, and but they always made you leave how you're comfortable working with computers and the internet to something where you're just like really scared. There wasn't that safety like in like using the product. It was really intimidating just to a normal person. Luckily for me, I have a background in computer science and tech, so I just like picked it up pretty quickly. But I understand I can be empathetic for others that don't. I would have to say there are players out there that make it really easy with education and awareness, and we would love to be part of that story, that narrative that helps general population feel safe. Lindsay Mallon, our CMO, is doing a great job right now, like taking all those harsh blockchain jargon and decomposing them so it's really easy for the general population to understand. So with that being said, like all these cool technologies have been built and no one's really using them. I mean, yeah, I use them and maybe you use them and other people in the crypto industry does, but the general population doesn't. And that saddens me because blockchain technology is really awesome. So the way we thought about Splyt is rather than having people come to our platform, let's make it more of an infrastructure. So it's kind of like just running in the back end, and let's take it to where e-commerce is happening today. So think Shopify, think WooCommerce, Magento, or other e-commerce platforms that businesses build their online stores. That's a front end. So that could remain the same for all the users, buyers, brands, sellers. But the piping underneath, we could connect all those stores and the whole e-commerce supply chain using NFTs. And that becomes really fascinating because you could get all the advantages of using blockchain technology and NFTs, but without the whole scariness of looking at a terminal on your website, trying to figure out how to SSH into like a blockchain or server.
Definitely. Yeah, I completely agree, Cyrus. And so many great points there about all these innovative technologies that have been in the works. Ethereum and NFTs were, NFTs back when CryptoKitties first sort of made a name for NFTs years ago now, and now it's finally getting into the mainstream, and now's the time. Your team's been working on this platform for 4 years, and it just seems like the timing is perfect to be releasing this to the mainstream when they're ready, right? And now sort of seems like the time, and I just want to continue that discussion with the NFTs. In the e-commerce store, you have a marketplace and you have shopping, you have non-NFTs and NFTs. Integrating that NFT aspect, I think, is going to have a huge competitive advantage. And as you talked about, with Lindsay, trying to make it so that people that don't know what an NFT is or don't know how to buy it can get involved. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on how is the NFT part going to work inside of the shopping, and how are you going to make it so that my grandma can buy an NFT off of Splyt?
Yeah, so great questions, Ashton. So first thing is, there's a misconception that Splyt is an e-commerce marketplace. We are not. We are a marketplace of marketplaces. We are the piping that connects a bunch of stores together, that decentralizes the supply chain or the distribution of the inventory. So that being said, our system really runs, again, in the back end, and it's for businesses to use. So a buyer or shopper would never know. Right? It would be as if they were shopping on your favorite online store hosted by Shopify today. The only change really is on the seller side, but even then, because of the App Store phenomenon that we've seen over the past 10 years, started with Apple's iPhone store, and now Shopify has their own App Store, Magento, WooCommerce, they all have app stores. We could just build an app that connects, has the middleware to connect into the blockchain, that everybody then could take advantage of without actually knowing that you're using the blockchain.
Hmm.
So let's get into how it really works. It's as easy as just downloading an app from an app store. And once you download an app, there's a couple questions that it asks you, and it just input like you would with any other application, and then you click save, and that's pretty much it. Now it walks you through the mechanics of exactly how it works. Like, hey, if you push this button, then you would broadcast your inventory to synchronize within all the stores within the network. What that really happens on the back end, though, is we mint an NFT for that inventory item that you have put onto your Shopify store. That NFT will then get broadcasted to every other database within our system. So all other Shopify stores will now see, hey, there is this NFT that's tied to this inventory item, and this inventory item is a baseball cap. Do I want to sell this on my store? Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a 10% commission if I source a buyer. Oh, since the information is tracked with an NFT, I know I'm going to get paid on my efforts. Mm-hmm. So you create this super affiliate network that's incentivizing other stores to pick up your inventory, sell it for you, and then there's a dropship element that happens. So it's a win-win situation by sharing inventory and creating this large pool of stuff to sell. You can create businesses online without the need of having to pay Facebook or Google for advertising costs. And that model is dying, in my opinion. What we call in the e-commerce space is CAC to LTV. What's your customer acquisition cost to your lifetime value? Why would I pay a bunch of money up front, crossing my fingers that traffic that comes to my site will convert, where I could just put a pay for performance contract using our NFT smart contracts. And if anybody picks up the item and sells it, that NFT will then make sure I get paid for my efforts flawless every single time.
And that is such a competitive advantage to have in the smart contract. If you want to have 10% resale value, and you have an original piece of something, you can program that in, and you don't have to have that third party. You're going to get paid. I think that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to make it that much more simple, it's really just a couple ClickUp buttons once you download the app. That's basically all it takes. And it looks like you're working in Shopify, so you never need to leave Shopify. I was asked a question recently, hey, how would you explain this to a 5-year-old? And I was like, well, think of e-commerce as your Lego set. And if you take one Lego and you try to, play with it, it's not that much fun, right? But if you bring all your Legos together and you start clicking them all on each other, and you can make something big and beautiful and fun to play with, and it's just really, a marvel to look at. That's what Splyt does. We band together all the small pop moms and pops to, share and be collaborative with each other, but still hold their own boundaries and privacies using NFTs. In a way such that you could kind of have that same movement that you saw in Wall Street Bets and GameStop, where they kind of all the little guys, took on the big hedge funds. You could do the same thing with e-commerce. So we're not trying to kill Amazon or any of these other bigger players. In fact, we're grateful for what Amazon has done for not just e-commerce, but society. Like AWS, the servers, the internet wouldn't be what it is today without Amazon. So there's a time and place for everybody. Maybe I think that their time is coming with having a monopoly on e-commerce, but not to say they wouldn't be able to have a successful business either. But I just feel like we need another option for other players to come in, for users to have an option with other players to choose from. So, Splyt, if we take the fragmented market of 40%, and by the way, Amazon has almost 50% market share, which, is a monopoly. At least you have an option where I could go to Amazon if that makes sense for me. And if it doesn't, then I could go, work within the Splyt network. And if it'll keep both parties honest, both Splyt and Amazon, to keep on doing what's best for the customer and society. Definitely,
Cyrus. And there's a lot of advantages to the NFT strategy that you've implemented, but you also have a fungible token that I want to touch on, and that's the Splyt token, and there's advantages in the ecosystem of utilizing that as well. Can you just talk a little bit about how the Splyt token works within the Splyt economy, and does it create a sustainable ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. So our token represents trust and transparency. Again, that's what the DNA, what I was saying earlier, who we are, what our missions are. What our mission's about. So our token prevents any type of fraud and promotes good behavior. So for instance, in order for me to mint my inventory as an NFT, so I could take advantage of all the data distribution that comes with it and increase my sales, I need to deposit a little bit of this token into that NFT. Once the transaction is successful, I get it back. And again, we do this seamlessly all on the back end. So you don't have to go buy tokens, sell tokens. You have your little system, you tell it what to do within the parameters, and it'll give you alerts, like if you're running low, like kind of like a car tells you you're running low on fuel, and it tells you how to replenish it. So we made it as easy as possible for people to understand and use. And the thing is, it's sustainable, right? It's cyclical, because every time I make the sale and the customer gets the item and I actually fulfilled my part of the bargain, I get those tokens back. So in theory, I would probably I would not need to have to go always to an exchange or find source tokens somewhere. I could continuously build my business. Now, the cool thing is, as GDP, or the gross domestic product of sales within our network, goes up, then those tokens represent selling bandwidth. The more tokens I have, the more I could list on Splyt. And if the GDP is higher, then I would have more of an incentive to list on it, because there's more sales activity that's going on. So that's essentially the model that we created, that's both sustainable and promoting good behavior, but also creating a healthy, sustainable economy that's incentivizing players to have a healthy and increasing GDP. Our smart contract escrows that's baked into all our NFTs uses our token to escrow the funds to protect buyers. So if I'm making a transaction online with someone that I don't know, in a decentralized e-commerce manner, trust and reputation become very important. And a way to ensure there's trust is using escrows. So that's another thing that we use our token for. So it's really built around the security of our network. Our token secures our NFTs and e-commerce transactions.
Definitely, and that's exciting. And I like the part about increasing the GDP and the selling bandwidth for sellers, and I think that's going to be a huge advantage as well. And we are running short on time, Cyrus, but I have one last question. In terms of releasing the platform, getting it to the mainstream, and capturing that market share in the fragmented part of the market that you were talking about, what do you see as one or some of the main factors to success that you're going to need to have to capture all of that market share and get mainstream adoption?
Yeah, I think really it's just kindness and empathy, to be honest. Really hearing what people need or society needs. Too many times I've seen people trying to push down a product to be like, use this, and use it in this way, without really making the person feel heard. You're not going to get a lifetime customer, right? So really changing those few people's lives, and like density and depth to me means a lot. And then they will become your advocates, and they will tell everybody, oh my God, Splyt really made a difference for what we're doing by doing, this and this and this for me. And by being a nonprofit, we're also open source, right? So it's not like we're telling people how they have to use the technology. We left a little bit of flexibility, because every e-commerce business is run a little differently, right? So while we're standardizing the NFT data, which again, all runs in the back end, no one really needs to know about, how they build their business on the front end still remains completely into their discretion. They have autonomy over their whole business model. I think that's really important, that the way we built it and went to market. It's really just doing what's right for the customer is really going to make the difference long term, and that starts with kindness and empathy.
Definitely, and I completely agree, Cyrus. And I agree also that to be customer oriented, and if you provide what your customers want, they will stay and they will return. So that's great. And now for the viewers that are looking to learn more on Splyt, get involved with the community as you continue to grow, what's the best way for them to learn more?
Yeah, so we have our Twitter channel, which we tweet, and we're pretty active. It's Splyt, SPLYT Core, CORE. And then we also have our Telegram channel, same, Splyt Core. And then we have our website, splitcore.org, which is informational about how to get more involved in our decentralized e-commerce ecosystem.
Great. Well, I will leave all of those links as well in the description box below for the viewers. Thank you so much for taking the time, Cyrus. It's been a pleasure learning more about Splyt. All the best with everything going forward, and let's follow up in the near future.
Yeah, thanks, Ashton.